All right, 5 Towns CrossFit today, shooting with the Z6 again, playing around with it. I think today the name of the game is going to be using auto IAF as much as possible in kind of a CrossFit-y fitness situation. See if it actually works. And then if that doesn't work, I'm still going to take 3,000 pictures, so I'm sure something will work. So I'm looking through first batch of some setup shots. Auto AF was on the whole time. Hit every single picture. All right. I was concerned that on a shot like this, it would jump into the background, but it didn't. Cool. All right, let's get into competition. So, plenty of usable shots. I'd say the big thing with using any kind of auto mode is my hit rate is still quite high, but the misses I have no control over when it is going to miss. Like, so if I'm using like a regular back button focus with dynamic AF, I at least know when it's not in focus, and I know when I'm missing it. Whereas this, it's gonna jump around, and it might jump at a time that I'm not expecting it to, which is annoying. And I really don't think that's a knock on their IAF. I think it's a knock on people that are relying on autofocus to do the work for them instead of being able to anticipate what the action is. But looking at these shots, tack sharp focus, super low light environment, very dynamic. Gotta go. More fun with auto IAF. Very interesting results, especially if you're shooting into like really strong backlight. It gets completely baffled, but realize all focus systems will get completely baffled with that. All right. That heat, I jumped back and forth between dynamic and oh, that's interesting. I jumped between dynamic and auto a couple times just to see if dynamic would do better, and it occasionally did, but it really just depended on the shot and the setup. I wouldn't really beat it up too bad for that. Cool. Okay, wrapping up 5 Towns CrossFit. I shot in autofocus almost all day, and now the real question is, will anyone actually notice? So with autofocus, definitely missed some shots, and like autofocus, I'm talking specifically about our eye tracking AF. It works a lot, and it works very, very well in certain situations, and it works kind of well in other situations. So something like someone doing a pull-up, where they're getting closer and further away from you, it actually does an incredible job locking on an eye, tracking through the whole movement. Somebody doing lifts and stuff, because you can basically pre-compose the shot and just keep tracking the focus, and it's in, and it works great. But other stuff like crowded scenes where there's a lot going on doesn't work very well. But why should it? Because there's multiple people in the frame. How would the computer understand that, right? But all in all, I've got to say, I kind of found it very, very interesting to shoot in auto AF, eye focus, whatever we're calling it. It worked, and I definitely got pictures that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise, and I don't know, it was just a really interesting way to shoot. So like, I know I was just talking to somebody and saying how it's not professional to leave it in autofocus because you just don't know what the result is going to be. The more I test it, I know in certain situations it's actually going to work better than a dynamic focus that I'm setting myself. So the moral of the story is, really just know your camera, and you're going to find out some really cool functions in there. So this eye autofocus review of it, it works in some situations, it doesn't work in other situations. But yeah, definitely check it out and just know every single function in your camera, and some of them might be good in certain situations, and it's better for you to know that than to not know that. So cool, check it out. That's it. Okay, so I said I was gonna be done in the car, but I got back home looking at the 5 Town pictures and really, really kind of blown away by what I got. Basically shooting an entire event using autofocus, which is
not what I would ever recommend, or not a technique I would ever tell someone else to use until I did it for an entire day for money. Like, this wasn't a fake job or something like that. This was a real job. So my livelihood kind of depends on the pictures actually coming out. Using this eye autofocus in the Z6. My plan was to just play with it a little bit, and then the second it stopped working, and then I proved it wouldn't really work in a CrossFit setting, just to stop using it. But then once I really kind of got my brain around how it was working, I kind of blown away by the results, to the point where you could skip to the end now. I would use this by default in most situations. And then if I felt that for whatever reason it wasn't working, or there's certain situations which I'll talk about, there's certain situations that's just not going to work, but I can explain that. But for the most part, if I'm in particular situations, or also the majority of situations, you're going to be able to get really good results with this eye autofocus once you know how to dial it in. But so I'm going to show a couple different sequences on the computer that kind of illustrate when it works really well and maybe when it struggles a little bit. All right, so we'll jump in over here. All right, so we are in the computer screen. So using the 70 to 200 here. So I got what? So also these are not selects. This is just the whole take of every time I press the button. So 1, 2, 3, let's just see right here. I'll just do it this way. 14 photos. So I have eye autofocus on, and what I'm doing, and you can also see, every single one of these photos is tack sharp. And this is literally just eye autofocus. So let me bring it back there for a second. My setup is not shooting focus with the shutter button. I'm using the AF on button. But so what's happening is as I'm looking through the EVF, the screen is constantly now hunting to try to put an eye autofocus on somebody. And then when it has a lock on, it's gonna show you a yellow box around their eyeball. Only then am I pressing the AF on button, which is then telling the camera to actually focus the lens. The rest of the time it's just hunting and doing its thing. When I press that button, it will then use that as the focus point, and then I can start shooting. But I could also, like, let's say I can see other people coming into the frame and my subject staying put, I can let go of that autofocus button, keep shooting, and that focus is gonna stay the same. All right, so back here, again, this is a really good example of a single person that only one set of eyeballs is ever gonna be looking at you. And it is just an incredible way to get the shots. And also notice, because the autofocus is working so well, edge to edge, because I crop everything, I don't have to focus and recompose in camera. So I actually am able to start shooting a lot tighter than I'm used to. Like, this is probably, my guess is I already edited this image because it looks really tight compared to the rest of them. Yeah. But like, I'm able to get the shots much tighter in camera now. So that's pretty cool. All right, next sequence. Oh, more of him. So this is also an interesting test here. So I saw this other coach sneak in back here, and I'm like, okay, all it's gonna do is start jumping between the two of them. And it didn't at all, and even as he started creeping in. Every single one of these is tack sharp. All right, like, look at that glint, look at that focus right there. And let's let it load in, all the way in, and boom, look at that, tack sharp, love it. Cool. All right, next sequence here. I took a lot of pictures of him talking. I took so many pictures of him talking. So this is now even a more extreme example of, I have now a second and third and fourth person in frame, and I have eye autofocus on him. And as it's going, this is the straight sequence out of camera. Notice it's not jumping to either of those other people. It's staying on him. But also, again, because I'm shooting with the back button, I can control it. That if it starts trying to pull to the other person, I could just let go of my focus button because I know he's still in focus and I can keep shooting. But also then, I just zoom into him, and like, so this is shot in camera and composed properly and cropped pretty much as much as the crop as I would need. So that's a really cool advantage, whereas normally you would have had to move the focus point 2 over and hope he's kind of staying there and back button that. So much better. And then here's another example, multiple people in frame, but my subject is actually staying in. So that's super cool. All right, let's take another look. So this is a good example of kind of how it's working. So she's obviously my focus. Back button is on, 24-70 on the camera. And so right here, she's a little out, but then I zoom in to try to get a little bit of better composition. And it's hunting a little bit. So it's got her here, it's missing here, it's missing here, it's missing here. Now she's back in, and it's got it. Like none of these pictures, but then it also, when I zoom out a little bit, it's now 100% locked in. So again, so it's a little out here, but this composition isn't particularly good, so I wouldn't have even used it. But then once I'm here, I got it, right? Boom, perfect, cool. Let's take a look. So this is another really interesting sequence here, and something a lot of people that shoot CrossFit specifically will struggle with. So if you're straight on with somebody doing like pull-ups or something, they're gonna be getting closer and further from you. And you kind of want to already have the composition on, right? But so where is it? I think it's probably right around here. I actually got the camera to read her eye. So she's in focus, she's in focus, she's in focus. And now I'm just zooming in and I lose her, but now it's still actually tracking her down, tracking her back up, and so on. So something like that is a kind of a really unique situation where as someone's getting closer and further away in really, really quick, it's actually getting the shot. Now, here's another just classic setup. It's actually the same person, it looks like, doing barbell stuff. So shooting her kind of from the side. Like my experience with autofocus is it's always just gonna grab the closest person or the closest thing to the camera, not necessarily a person, or even if it has a thing like face detect or something, it's gonna grab the closest moving body part, so like an arm and not her face. Whereas here, I have a really strong lock on, and only this one am I actually not missing. So I missed right here, but that could partially be me. But like talking about usability, I'm moving my camera, I'm moving the focus, and she's moving. And I'm also shooting at 170 millimeters. So a lot of, and again, this is the raw take. These aren't the selects. So I have at least, out of 23 photos, I probably have 20 to pick from that I could use that are all tack sharp. And then here, because I realized, this is another sequence of pull-ups, I realized how good that focus was doing, and like, wow, this might actually lock onto an eyeball as she's kipping onto the pull-up bar. So I tried it again, got a much better lock on and a much better position, so I really grabbed her eye. So down here she's in, up here she's in, she's out a little bit there, and then I missed it. But the same thing here, she's in, good, cool. And then for fun, we actually were outside for a minute. And I thought running at the camera, the results were pretty mixed. But so, no one actually here has an eye up, so it makes sense that they're not on, but so it's basically just doing like an autofocus on their bodies and figuring out what's moving. But so right here, grab the lock on, and then we have like a hard lock on here, lock on, still going, so still 100% in focus, and I always want to shoot pretty tight, but so right now, it's grabbed this guy, and the question was how fast as they run past me is it going to reacquire the next person? The answer was pretty freaking slow, but that also could be the way I have it set up. So like it missed him in this frame. So going from here to here wasn't enough time. And then it also missed him, but then got it by the time it got there. And then when they come back around, so I'm tracking him really, really well. And then as he zips around, so look, so right here, this guy is still in. I'm shooting at 130 millimeters. Right here it grabbed him. So it only took like maybe 2 seconds, but also that's the tracking speed. But it couldn't see the other guy's eye until it was here. And then it has a strong lock on, and then the same thing, now it's handing off really well between each one of these guys, right? So even that, like he's locked on, now he's in, cool? So it works okay, but again, like people think that this IAF stuff is supposed to be like magic. Again, the camera needs to see an eyeball for it to be able to figure out who to be grabbing. So like if you're shooting people from the back, it's not gonna work. If you're shooting large crowds of people, it can be a challenge, but I actually realized that there is a whole system in here that if you focus on one person, or it's gonna give you a yellow box on someone's eye, and if there's arrows on the right or left, that means the other person also has a potential lock on, so you could just press the right button a couple times and you'll focus on them instead. So that actually was useful because once I understood those symbols and the way the camera was kind of talking to me, it got really, really easy to make sense of that. So I can shoot the whole time, switch that focus, and it works. Yeah. Review, I guess, of this IAF. Would I use it? Yeah, I used it the whole day. I'm gonna include links to the album of selects that I shot the whole day just with the Z6, left the D5 in the bag the entire time. And I think it's fantastic. And I'm gonna keep pushing this IAF stuff and using it more and more because more of my stuff is in focus than me trying to hunt around with just a regular continuous focus system, like using dynamic focus and a focus point and just trying my best. In some situations, it doesn't work great. In a lot of situations, it works really, really well. So that's it. Autofocus. Cool.